So, precision alignment is a pretty powerful but complicated building tool. Um, so, I'm going to go over how you use it. So, if you open the Q menu, you see we have points, we have lines, we have planes, we have some checkboxes, um, all this stuff. So, first, I'm going to go over points because that's probably what you're going to use the most. So let's say I have one of these and I want to put some plates on the sides to make it an actual cube. So let's get this one, and if we want to put it on this side, we make sure this is angled correctly, and now we get to the points. So connecting points is how you put things together. So if I put a point right here, so I have hit pose selected, and I just click right here, and that will put a point right there attached to this cube. So now you would put a second point. So I want this prop to move to there. So I'm going to put a second point here, and the way you do that is by holding shift and then clicking. And when you hold shift and click, it will add a new point. So if I hold shift, I can put more points. And then if I have all these points, I can go in here, delete all, get rid of them. So point 1, point 2, right? So now I right click this prop to select it. And now that I have it selected, if we go into the Q menu, you can see under the points section, we have point 1, point 2. So in the left side, we have point 2 selected. In the right side, we have point 1 selected. And then we have a button called Move Entity. So this is going to move point 2 to point 1. It's going to move our selected entity from point 2 to point 1. So point 1 is here, point 2 is there. So if I move entity, there we go. It is attached. And now I can go in here and delete all my points. So there's a few different types of points. There's hit pause is probably the one you'll use the most. There's coordinate center, mass center, and bounding box center. So let's say I wanted to put something like a helicopter bomb right in the center of this cube. So with precision alignment, I select mass center, I click on this cube, puts a point in the center of mass of the cube, which is the center, and then I can hold shift, click this, another point has been created in the center of mass of this prop. So now, if I select this, hold Q, and press move entity, there we go. So now this helicopter bomb is in the center of mass of the cube. So there's two other types of points. There's coordinate center and bounding box center. Bounding box center usually will do the same thing as mass center. It puts a point in this outline you see when I mouse over it, like the Smart Snap outline. It will put a point right in the center of its bounding box. Now coordinate center will put a point at the origin of the prop. So for the barrel, the origin is right at the bottom. That's where that's considered the origin of the prop. We can also attach points. So if I put a point here on this barrel, and then I right click this, and I click attach, it will attach the point to the selected entity. So now I can move this barrel away, but this point is still here, and it's attached to this prop. So I could put a second point there, and now if I do move entity, it will move it exactly to where that barrel was. And the points stay attached, so I can move it further in that direction. Now, so point 1, point 2, I can swap these around, move entity, and put it back exactly where it was. Or if I wanted to push this inward so that it's flush with the cube, I could do like this, and then move entity. There we go, it's moved in. Now we have a flush plate with the cube. Well, mostly flush anyway. So that's how points work. Now I'm going to get into the rotation section. So if you hold the tool and press R, a menu comes up with a bunch of tabs and a bunch of options and a lot of complicated stuff. What does all this do, right? So most of it we're going to ignore for now. I'm just going to use the rotation section. So let's say I have this plate is at the perfect angle for something, but I don't want to use that plate. I want to use this plate. How do I match this plate to that plate's angle? Well, if I right-click this to select it and go to Rotation tab in the R menu, I can click Get Angles. Now these angles have been set to this prop's angles. So now I can right-click this, go to Rotate Entity. There we go. Now it's the exact angle. So now I can do Mass Center, move entity. There we go. Now it's at the exact same position as the other prop, the exact same angle as the other prop, but it's a different prop. So there's also, if we open the rotation menu, there's also a checkbox that says relative to entity. So if I were to select, let's get this. If I were to select this wood plank, and I can check relative to entity, I can click this 0 button to set all the sliders to 0. So now we have a rotation angle relative to the entity. So let's say we want to rotate it 45 degrees that way, if you can see. So in yaw, I'm going to type in 45 and click rotate entity. And that will rotate the entity relative to its origin 45 degrees. I can also, if I put a point right here, when I'm going to rotate this entity, I can select a pivot point. So now when I go to rotate it, it will pivot around this point I've created. So we also have lines. Lines aren't tremendously useful, but they do have their uses. So let's say line hit pause plus hit normal, and let's put that line right here. So now we have this blue line. It's kind of hard to see, but we have this blue line extending out in this direction. So if I were to select this cube, actually no, let's select this plank. Now, if we go to rotation, we have rotate around axis down here. So we can set line 1 as our axis. We can set the angle to rotate by, let's say, 5 degrees, and let's do rotate entity. And now, this prop rotates around this line we created. So let me increase that a little bit. There we go, right? And then, so we've placed our line right here, but let's say we want our line to point a different way. So we can use line hit normal, not hit pause plus hit normal. This one, hit pause plus hit normal, is for placing the original line. Now if I use line hit normal, whatever surface I click on is where the line will point. So if I click on the floor, the line will now be facing straight upwards because that is the face that I clicked on. So this, the face of this is pointing upwards. So if I click on the side of this, the line points that way. If I click this side, it points that way. If I click here, it will point that way. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah, it's there. So now I can do rotate it around that line. That could be useful depending on what you're doing. We've gone over points, we've gone over moving, we've gone over lines. Now it's time to get into planes. And with planes comes mirroring. So let's say we have this one plate here, right? But we want this plate to be on all sides. We want to cover this thing. We could spawn more plates and put them into position, but I'm going to do the cool way, which is mirroring. So select plane, hit pause. I guess I can get rid of this line. Select plane, hit pause plus hit normal. And so if we want to mirror this from this side to this side, we need a plane right down the middle, which would be like in this line, kind of. So that's in the middle of, this plane is in the middle of this side and this side. So now that we have a plane in the middle, you can see our plane is pointing, there's a square like this, and then there's a arrow, well, kind of an arrow pointing that way. So our plane is a flat plane on this surface. So we need to change that. And the way we change that is selecting plane, hit normal, and then just like the line hit normal, we click on a surface, and that will rotate our plane. So if I click the floor, the plane is now flat. If I click the side of this or this wall, the plane is now sideways. Okay, you see where we're going with this? So now we have a plane pointing sideways down the middle. So now, if we right-click this prop and open our R menu, we have a tab called Rotation Functions. And then under Rotation Functions, we have Mirror Across Plane, this blue button. So we select Plane 1, and we click Rotate Entity. And it puts it on the other side, but it also got rid of that one, which is not really what we want. So, the way we do that, the way we mirror it, is we hold Shift and click Rotate Entity. And that will create a copy and mirror it. So now we have a mirrored copy. So how do we put this down here, right? The way we're going to do that is we're going to put a plane right here. I'm going to get another like dummy prop and angle it like this. And now I can click on this with plane hit normal. Now our plane is facing like that. So now if I go to mirror this, blam, we got it on the bottom. So I can do the same thing. Let me get another dummy prop. I can angle our point like this. I can mirror this across here. There we go. And then I can mirror this. And finally, I will put a plane there, point it upwards, and now I will mirror this prop across this plane up to the top. So now we've created a cube with precision alignment. So in our R menu, we also have a tab called Points, which we can use to modify our points. So let's say I wanted to move this prop directly in the center of this barrel and this helicopter bomb. So if I take my precision alignment and select mass center, I can put one here and then hold shift to put another here. So now I have 2 points. So how do I move this into the center of these 2 points? Well, what I'm going to do is hold shift and put 2 more points in here and then select this. So we have a point there, and then 2 points here. So if we press R and go to our points menu, you can see at the bottom there is point functions. So I'm going to select, hold shift and select point 1 and point 2 and then click center of points. And now I will click point 3 up here and say set. And what that will do is move point 3 into the center of point 1 and 2. And we still have point 4 over here. So now I can just open the Q menu and move point 4 to point 3. There we go. It's directly in the center. Now I can delete all these points. So we can, if you open the R menu, there's also constraints. We can make constraints with precision alignment. So first there's axis. You can read the descriptions of these for a little more info, but what axis does is we put, let's say, a point here, and then we can put a point anywhere on this prop. It's just to select this prop. The point 1 is what really matters. Point 2 is just designating the second prop. We're going to go to line, hit pause plus hit normal. We'll put a flat line pointing straight out from that. And now, if we press R, we can select entity 1 is point 1, entity 2 is point 2. We can select the axis. This is optional. And then we can create constraint. So now, let me get rid of all my points and lines. If I grab this barrel, he's now attached to this cube by an axis. And the axis is centered around right here. And in the direction, the rotation direction is in the direction of the line we put. So, ball socket, advanced ball socket. If you've ever used the tool, you should be pretty familiar with how those work. Elastic. Let me show you some cool stuff you can do with elastic. So, we're going to put 2 points in the center of mass of this barrel. And now I'm going to select this cube that we have and go to the Q menu and say point 2 we want to attach to the cube. So now we have a point on the barrel and a point centered on the barrel but attached to the cube. And what we can do with that, if we go to constraints, we can make an elastic between point 1 and point 2. So create constraint, delete all these points. So now we have a elastic centered on, we have an elastic, get this out of here. We have a, oh, that's not good. We have an elastic attached to this cube, but this can still rotate around its axis, and it's drawn into this place by its elastic. So the way you do car suspension is kind of similar to this. So we also have ropes. You can make rigid ropes. We have sliders. You can make a perfect slider between 2 points. And hydraulic lets you move wire hydraulics to different points. So that is that's precision alignment. That should be everything.